Everybody, my name is Father Jack Fitzpatrick. I have the dubious distinction of having been a seminary classmate of your pastor, Father Tim, and I've come here to fulfill my Lenten penance and visit him here for for a little while. In fact, it is that funny, you know. I mean, it really is. Father Tim was a character. Anyway, I'm a Navy chaplain. I'm currently assigned to 1st Battalion, 11th Marines, Field Artillery, in Camp Pendleton. So anyway, flew across the country to be tormented by Tim and his bad jokes and his cats and all that. You know, he's a cat guy. You know, that's the thing about Father Tim. He's a cat guy, and that's weird. But you know what? Here it takes all kinds. You know, fools for Christ. Yeah. But anyway, so I'm going to be preaching this parish mission that you guys are all having this week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at 7 o'clock here in the church. So it'd be good to see you guys there if you had time. So this gospel here, Jesus, this is a cringe moment. You know, I mean, think of the cringiest thing you've ever seen in your life. For me, that's Scott's Tots. You know, episode of The Office. Have you ever seen that? It's just hard to imagine. The dinner party is a close second to how awful that was. If you've ever been in a situation in which you just, you can't believe someone did that, Jesus did this to everybody, okay, in this gospel. You know, up until now, I mean, this is close. Jesus had done a lot of things. You know, he's healed people. He has caused people to be scandalized all kinds of different ways. He has overted kind of to the fact that he's the Messiah. This is sort of early on in the gospel, but anyway, he does all kinds of things that rub people the wrong way. And generally speaking, people are patient, you know, with him when he does this stuff. I mean, he knows he's God. He knows exactly what he's doing, okay? It's not like you're awkward. Okay, if Jesus makes you feel awkward, it's because you're awkward, not him. But it still feels awkward, is the thing. So anyway, he goes into the temple. He's in the temple area. This is the sacrosanct place for all Jews ever. You know, to understand how awkward this situation is, you know, the temple, okay, is the holiest place of all the places in the Jewish world. Okay, it was years ago. It is still today, even though there isn't a temple. Okay, in the Jewish mind, Jews at the time of Jesus did not believe that there was an afterlife. At least most of them didn't. You know, that when you died, exactly what happened to you was I don't know, it was up in the air a little bit. Some believed in a place called Sheol where perhaps your soul might go, but there was not really a developed concept of that. Jews believed that kind of life was passed down through the legacy of your family. That was the whole thing, you know, so offspring and raising offspring up after your parents was a big deal. Continuing your legacy was a big thing. And the temple. The Jews believed that the best it could ever get is living in the land that God had given to them, roughly the land of Israel today, with the temple that was ordered to be built by God, priests sacrificing animals to God in the temple, and everyone living there without anybody else intervening and messing it up. That is the ideal world, okay? And the temple is the absolute center, focal point of Jewish life and Jewish self-understanding and everything. And probably most Jews would say similar today, you know? At the end of the Passover Seder, the Jews have a time in which they think about, it says next year in Jerusalem, you know, in which the Jews pray, next year will be the year. It'll be the year that Messiah comes and restores the temple to us, and we'll finally have, you know what, anyway, big deal, the temple. Well, Jesus walks right in there. He walks right into the temple area, and he sees people doing things that they're not supposed to do. And it's not so much that they're not supposed to sell things, you know, because people had to buy the animals that they were going to sacrifice in the temple somewhere. That wasn't the problem. The problem had to do with the kind of money they were using. Forget about that, okay, for now. That's not the point of what I'm trying to say. People were in there doing things they weren't supposed to do, and Jesus is just livid. He's full of anger, and he tells them exactly what he thinks about it. And he goes in there, and he starts breaking stuff. You know, hoorah. He gets in there and starts breaking stuff. He's throwing tables over. You know, he makes a whip out of cords. It makes you wonder, did he do that ahead of time? Did he just make a quick whip then? I don't know, but he does. He makes this whip out of cords and just starts beating people with it. And the disciples, I'm sure, are standing by and they're just, what? Okay, you've done some crazy things, Jesus, and now here's this. They were probably trying to not be seen near him. I bet you they walked far away from where Jesus was, if anything, to just get away from the whip, And all this is going on, and then the gospel sort of ends kind of anticlimactically, He does all this stuff. The Pharisees question him, what do you mean you're going to destroy this temple, blah, 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 and then it's kind of over, okay, at that point. And at the end, Jesus says a very scary thing. Actually, St. John says a very scary thing about Jesus. It says, many people began to believe in the name of Jesus because of the signs he was doing. And when John says signs, he means miracles, okay, because the miracles Jesus was doing. But here you go. But Jesus would not trust himself to them, because he knew them all and did not need anyone to testify about human nature. He himself understood it well. Meaning, this whole thing had happened. Everybody's embarrassed by what Jesus did. And yeah, he worked some miracles. He probably healed some people, the kind of standard stuff that Jesus would do whenever he came into your village preaching. He was healing the sick and stuff like that. But he knew that everybody was embarrassed by him. He knew that. And he knew that people were only really believing in him because of the wonders that he had worked, and not because of how he wanted everyone to get right about worshiping God in the temple. He knew that people were viewing him as the guy who gives you free stuff, okay? The guy who does things for you that no one else can do. And they had totally sidestepped the important thing, which was, you guys are fundamentally misunderstanding how you were supposed to worship God. That was the point of cleansing the temple, okay? It was, you've got all your human stuff in the way. God wants to have a relationship with you. He wants to know you. He wants to love you. And what? You've made the temple, this whole bazaar, to sell your trinkets? That's what you did? No, you're missing it. And at the end of the day, Jesus, I think, is kind of frustrated, He did not entrust himself to those people because they were too busy being embarrassed by the actual message of Jesus and were too busy being excited about having an easier and better life. That's what it comes down to, okay? And listen, this is a huge temptation for everybody because, we are used to having a God who is all-powerful, okay, who has everything, who can do anything, who is present everywhere at all times, at least in principle, and is all-loving and all good. And sometimes we think like this: God, because you have all of this stuff, because you can do all of these things, I have a right to you doing all the stuff and giving me all the things. So please just, if you would please just salute smartly and give me everything that I need, that would be great. And what God says is, I don't understand that request. I'm not trusting myself to you, because what I really want to do, what I really want to give you is something much better than this, okay? It can include those things, but I'm not listening to that entitled request, because you sound like a spoiled child when you're saying that, okay? And I don't trust myself to spoiled children. You don't trust anything to children, ever, for any reason, right? That's the whole thing. And it applies to adults that act like children, too, is the thing. You just don't do it. What I think that we should be thinking about today, it's the third Sunday of Lent, and if you're doing Lent appropriately, you got to be giving something up. You got to be praying a little bit more. You got to be giving some of your money away. You got to be, doing some kind of fasting, some combination of those sort of things. And what that is supposed to do is shake loose inside of you the places where God isn't, but where he needs to be. That's the whole idea of it. Jesus pointed out essentially to the whole Jewish people, God is supposed to be the center of your entire existence. But instead, human selfishness is at the center of your existence where God should be. And that's an inexcusable thing, okay? Inexcusable. And for us, that can easily be the same. It can easily be the same. Sometimes you think you're talking to God, but you're really just making childish demands of him, you know? I mean, if you take a step back from your own relationship with God, your own prayer, your own whatever, and just ask the question, hey, listen, when I'm talking to God, how much am I actually demanding of him? And how much am I letting him to talk to me? How much am I allowing God to sort of dictate the terms of our relationship? Am I letting him take the lead? Is my love for God and his love for me what is central to my life as a Christian? Or is there something else? See, because a lot of the times what happens is, when you make your dumb prayers to God, and we all do it. Everybody does it. Everybody makes dumb prayers to God. It's okay, all right? It's okay. It's an okay thing. We need to do that a little bit less if we can. But, when you're making your prayers to God and you're demanding the things from him, and he's, of course, not gonna answer those prayers because that's just not the way adults operate. God is the uber adult. When you do that, one of the dangers is fixating on the results of the prayer that you made. Okay, God, I'm sick. It's just a random example that came to my mind. God, I'm sick. I'm missing out on probably 5 days of work because of my sickness. I don't know how I'll pay my bill. Please heal me, because obviously that's what a responsible God would do, and allow me to get back to the thing that I need to do. Amen. Your servant. And God says, well, I see the nobility of what you're asking, but I'm not in the business of, healing people so they can go back to work. I'm in the business of setting people free from sin, from shame, from self-doubt, from recrimination, and ultimately from hell. That's what my business is. If you would talk to me in those kind of ways, then I entrust myself to you. See, and you get something way better than 5 days' pay. You get an eternal God who loves you forever and will never let you be frustrated, and will never let you be alone, and will never let you have to walk down a dark valley without a way out. I got lost in my own metaphor there. But that's the whole thing. He will never do that so long as you open up your actual heart to him. And that's the point of this gospel. People had their hearts closed. They were acting entitled. They were putting human greed in the place where the presence of God that existed in the temple, albeit in a shadowy way, where that was supposed to reign, they were in fact reigning on God's throne. And Jesus says, only room for one on here, and it's not you, okay? And you're the world's worst God, people, and I'm way better. And what I want you to do, please, is let me do for you what only I can, okay? And then everything else will be given to you besides. If we make it all the way through Lent, and we have not examined what my relationship with God is actually like, and I don't mean what you want it to be, what it's actually like right now, we could miss the whole point of it, okay? And that's what it all comes down to. So today, what you ought to think about, in my opinion, and you're paying me for my opinion, that's the whole thing. You're not paying me anything. But but what I think we ought to be thinking about today, I'm paying you by taking Father Tim off your hands. Actually, matter of fact. But anyway, what we ought to be thinking about today is, okay, am I actually allowing God to take the lead in my relationship with him, my relationship with the church, and my relationship with my fellow man? Or am I subtly, without myself being aware of it, dictating the terms, okay? And am I frustrated because the terms that I set are dumb? That's the question, okay? And how can I put God squarely in the center of my life, my relationships, my family, my work, my everything? Because when you do, God entrusts himself to you. The eternal Lord of the universe, who made everything, who made you, who made the stars, who made all things, who is all-powerful, who reigns sovereign on the throne above the angels, that that being entrusts himself to you. That being lives in your heart. That being protects you from all things, so long as you give him the opportunity to actually reign. And don't subtly fall into the trap of letting yourself reign in his place and do a terrible job of it, because that's the only job that you will do, is a terrible job of reigning in place of God. When God reigns, you're safe and you're free. And that's why Jesus made everybody awkward, okay? It made everybody feel awkward because everybody was so wrong. And the thing is, when you find yourself, when the the hairs on the back of your neck are raising and your shoulders are shrugging forward like this because someone does something that's so weird, it's because something is wrong, okay? And a major thing was wrong all these years ago, and it can still be wrong today if we let our own disordered desires and passions rule where God wants to just set you free. Please stand.